Good morning, good morning. We invite everyone to grab a coffee and a Danish and come on in. We are still going to start our public sector breakfast. As our panelists get on board, once again, we do ask you to come join us this morning now for a public sector breakfast. We'll go ahead and get started here, and I'm sure a couple of folks will trickle in. But once again, good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Vivian Martitas. I am the Director of Strategy for CoMotion. I do want to welcome you all. Thank you for making it this morning. It's been a jam-packed day yesterday. We're all very tired. Our feet and our knees hurt, but hopefully your brain got lots of great information. And we do once again appreciate you for being here this morning. We are talking this morning about public-private partnerships, what works, what doesn't work, challenges, and hopefully some great ideas that we can share with you to help you with your public-private partnerships. Once again, our goal for today is to spotlight the best in private and public industry, and hope to spur some ideas and share some information with you. And our panelists will share recent wins, again, challenges and ideas that may help as you move forward with your public-private partnerships. So I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to self-introduce themselves, and we'll start with Chris.
Good morning. Morning, everybody. My name is Chris Hudtwalcker. I'm a Senior Strategy and Innovation Officer at the Port of Miami. Part of the strategy team, which was newly reconstituted a couple years ago at the port to drive really the long-term growth of the port, strategic initiatives. Basically, how do we position the port compared to our competitive environment here in Florida with a bunch of other ports through growth, through capital projects, business development, to really, like I said, position the particularly focusing on a Latin America strategy moving forward. So that's the quick and dirty.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Keith. Tell us what you got.
Keith Carswell. Good morning, everyone. Come on. Okay, there we go. Sounds like there's some morning people in here. Okay. All right. Keith Carswell, Chief Economic Development Officer for the City of Miami. I oversee an office called Venture Miami, which is an office within the City Manager's office. It's our economic development office, but with a slant towards innovation and technology. Since COVID, since COVID, South Florida has been on the cusp of a transformation of our economy from totally dependent on hospitality and tourism, and it will always be with the #1 cruise port and a top 25 airport. But there is a moment that we have that we're at, a pivotal moment where tech companies have been moving here, and we are in a position, and a lot of that is because of SALT tax, which has been capped about a few years ago, but a welcoming political environment, and also the weather. Look at today, you know? And so what we're trying to do through various partnerships that we'll get into is kind of seize the moment, or carpe diem. We're in the midst of that cusp, but as we go through that transformation, we're having growing pains. We have growing pains in terms of traffic. We have growing pains in terms of housing affordability, not affordable housing, but people that have a household income in excess of six figures have challenges with finding safe, clean housing in the neighborhood that they want to be in. So there are a myriad of challenges. Our partners, Miami-Dade College, University of Miami, FIU, FMU, have been engaged in that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those public-public partnerships as well as public-private partnerships, particularly as it relates to AAM. Thank you.
Great. Maryam.
Good morning. It's nice to see this early 8 a.m. bunch here. My name is Maryam Borrego. I'm the Vice President for External Affairs here at Miami-Dade College and Chief of Staff to the President, and it's our pleasure to be able to host this conference here over the last 2 days.
Amazing facility. Thank you.
And we hope to be able to host you again next year, so thank you.
Thank you.
So for us at the college, we're at the center of partnership. We're at the center of public-private partnership, at the center of private public partnerships, and we just really see ourselves as the connector and also the connection around workforce development. So as tech evolves, as the port evolves, as we have new emerging technology and new emerging industry, we see ourselves as the workforce engine of the college and of our community to make sure that we have graduates to meet the job demands, to make sure that we have high school students coming to Miami-Dade College to meet the future workforce needs. We're really thinking about students that are in kindergarten today and what that's going to look like in terms of workforce needs in 10, 15, 20 years from now, because all of the work, because it doesn't matter what industries come, if we can't provide the talent, we're going to be behind, and we're going to have all these promises that the mayor, our county elected officials, all of the wonderful tax incentives that the state of Florida provides, but if we're not able to deliver on the workforce needs, companies are going to leave, and we've seen it a little bit post-pandemic. So our goal is to really ensure that we have cutting-edge programs and that our students are ready day one on the job. We talk to employers, and some of the challenges that we see, students aren't ready, the curriculum doesn't match what they're doing day one in the jobs, and a lot of them are thinking about what the value of education is. So for us, we want to make sure that employers see that if a student graduates from our college, that they're going to be ready to go to work, and they don't feel like they need to create their own workforce development programs, their own training programs. That is something that we don't want to see, and we do see a lot of large companies saying, you know what, the universities and colleges in our communities aren't able to provide the workforce that we do, so we're just going to train the workforce. And for us, we believe that we should be front and center in that, and looking forward to talking more about how we partner with pretty much everyone here on the stage.
Before we get to Will, I'll just let you all know I'm a proud alum of Miami-Dade College. I did take courses on this campus a few years back, but very proud to be here, and it's amazing to see the growth and so excited about the future. So congratulations. Will.
Good morning. Will Reid, Deputy Commissioner, Chief Engineer, Tennessee Department of Transportation. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I don't know if any of you have been to Tennessee anytime recently, or specifically Nashville, but if you haven't, you know that it's one of the hottest cities in the country, and we also have one of the most vibrant states. We're very proud of that. With that comes the challenge of how do you move people? And more importantly, from a state perspective, how do we work with local governments, municipalities, to make sure that, you know, while we move people on our roadway network, how do they complete their journey to where they're going, and what is our role in that? And that's changing dramatically in Tennessee. Historically, the connection between the state DOT and those locals has not been as strong as it could be. But you mentioned Carpe Diem and seizing the day. That was one of the things I was going to hit on today, because in Tennessee, we just got authority through major legislation this last session, the Transportation Modernization Act, to enter into public-private partnerships for managed lane projects. We call them choice lanes in Tennessee. We don't call them toll roads. That's not what we call them.
Noted.
But the opportunity is there for us to be able to integrate those managed lane systems, particularly from a transit standpoint and park and rides and all of that, into connecting to those major urban areas while balancing the needs of the rural communities along with those in the urban environment. So really excited to be able to talk about that today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And so what we'll do here is we're just going to go one by one. They're going to tell us about their projects, what's going on, and I know you've got a lot happening at the port right now, Chris, so if you can give us an idea of what innovations, what does the future look like? I think people sometimes have a misconception and just think cruises and cargo come in and out, and it's not that hard. Tell us about the innovation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hello?
Yep.
Okay. Absolutely, no. The port is a fascinating place, including this week. I think you guys have probably seen some of the military ships coming through. It's Fleet Week. First time we're hosting that. We stole that from Fort Lauderdale this year. And last year we actually hosted CoMotion. So
Yes.
we have a little thing going on here with Miami-Dade College about who's going to host CoMotion. No, so I think with this topic, I was really excited to be invited to this panel, because I think at the port we sit at the intersection of public and private. It's really a fascinating place, because while we are a public entity, right, we work under the leadership of the Mayor Levine Cava, as well as our director and CEO Heidi Webb, and for the public, obviously. We are a proprietary department, first of all. So what that means is basically none of your tax dollars go to support the port. All the revenue that we derive from our business is from the fees and the leases and basically the business side of it, right? So on the cruise side, that means basically how many passengers do we get. On the cargo side, that means how many boxes do we get. And that means that our very existence basically depends on working hand in hand with our private partners. So on the cruise side, that's when you're driving to Miami Beach and you see all these beautiful brand new cruise terminals. those are strategic investments that we've made in capital projects, deals that we've made with our cruise lines to make Miami the most attractive place to cruise from. We have obviously access to the Caribbean market. That's a huge plus for us. But these terminals are a tool that we have to make this the most inviting place, right? So that's the biggest side. And on the cargo side, it's really interesting, you know, a port authority, and we don't want it. We don't want one. We love the way we're structured. Locally controlled, the Miami-Dade County Commission is our regulating body. But that means that we have a lot of competition in the state, right? We're not competing with other states, we're competing with other ports in our own state. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic that we have. Checking my notes. So that really means for us we have to run the port like a business, right? Our growth depends on more passengers, more boxes. And the other part that's really interesting is that we're a landlord port. That's pretty common around the country, but that means that we don't actually directly, we're not a cruise line, and we also don't directly handle individual containers. We lease the space that the private terminals do that work on. But that doesn't mean that we're completely hands-off, right? We make infrastructure investments. We want to grow the business on both sides, and that means working together with our partners. On the cargo side in particular, which is where I focus a lot of my time, you know, we like to joke it's an industry that's been around for a very long time and doesn't like to change very much, right? They're used to doing things the way they do. Some cargo terminals still operate on spreadsheets, right? Operate on paper. When you have all kinds of innovation going on around the world, around the country, that's a huge opportunity for us to really try to bring our cargo partners along with us. And that's a challenge, right? I mean, we're having that conversation with them every day. Our team is leading negotiations with 2 of our cargo terminals right now, really to modernize, to grow, to become more efficient. And the potential in this area is just incredible. When you talk about AI and the Internet of Things, terminal operating systems that can do all the work that used to be done by hand, right? Connecting to the cranes, connecting to the trucking network. All of these things can be done in an automated way, right? Where a truck pulls in, immediately the system can automatically be alerted that this box is tied to this truck and needs to be grabbed. Even the equipment itself, right, is reaching new levels that is just incredible. And so our path really, on the cargo side in particular, is technology and innovation. That has to happen. And so, you know, with that, I think I'll share a little bit about the main project that I'm leading right now, which is a cargo visibility project. So about a little over a year ago, the mayor of Miami-Dade County helped create a organization called the Miami-Dade Innovation Authority. And their mission was to come in and work with county departments to innovate, right? So to connect us with startup companies that can help solve a problem that we have and for us, it's at the port, obviously. So, you know, we did an internal look at what kind of challenge we wanted to work on, and cargo visibility was that challenge. And that's a really exciting opportunity because, like I said, there's just so much going on in this space. And cargo visibility, what that means is essentially the tracking of containers. Mm-hmm. So what we're working on is we will eventually, we've actually closed on Monday all applications to our Public Innovation Challenge, where we put out a public call and said, hey, startup companies, and we're focusing on early to growth stage startup companies, come bring us your best cargo visibility solution to improve visibility on port. And what that means is for basically if you're a cargo owner, you'll be able to know better exactly where your cargo is. Is it coming off the ship? Is it stuck in a cargo terminal? Is it already on the way on a truck? That allows you to plan your inventory, minimize shrink, minimize overstocking, reduce costs, and ultimately those are costs that can be passed on to the consumer, right? So with a more efficient port, a more innovative port, we can become a more attractive place for business to come. We can lower costs to the region. So that's an exciting opportunity for us. We're ultimately will be able to pick 3 to 5 companies that will all be eligible for $100,000 equity investment into the company to come do pilot projects here on port. And that's really cool for us because cargo visibility means a lot of things to a lot of people. It's a huge area of innovation. You know, you could have visibility on the shipping line. You could have visibility within the cargo terminal. You could have visibility for the trucking company. So there's all these different areas that we can improve this space of having folks really understand where cargo is and where it's going. And it can open up a whole universe of business opportunities for us as well, right? So with 3 to 5 companies, we can kind of target different components of visibility, put together kind of a comprehensive package, which I think is a really exciting opportunity. So, you know, just real quick, I mean, a benefit could be a trucking company knowing when to come, when not to come. There's a lot of traffic on port, let's wait a little bit. And ultimately, truckers want to do what we call 2 turns a day, right? They want to come to the port 2 times a day. That allows them to make more money. Right now, with congestion, with inefficient operations at some times, they might only be doing 1 turn. That's lost revenue for them.
So it sounds like it's a win-win for the county, obviously, good for the environment, traffic, and ways for businesses to be more efficient. What's the time frame for that to be announced? Or I know you just closed them, so I imagine it'll be quite a process to go through that. We've just got a couple more minutes. Tell us how you think this will now get implemented.
Sure, absolutely. So we're going through a selection process right now, partnered with the Miami-Dade Innovation Authority, as well as the American Association of Port Authorities. To go through that process, we'll have another, I think, 2 months or so till we select our winners, and then we will start implementing, hopefully, we'll start working on the pilots in July. And ultimately, because we're in such a competitive environment, the goal is to make Miami, the Port of Miami, the most attractive port that it can be. We have some structural challenges, some competitive challenges. Those are always going to be there. So what are the things that we can do as a port to make it more attractive, right? And if you're deciding between the Port of Miami and another port, and you know that if you come here, you'll have real-time transparency about where your box is, when it's going to get there. There are real business opportunities for folks to take advantage of, and that's just a layer that we're trying to add through innovation and technology.
That's awesome. I hope some of you are landlocked, but many of you are from Port City, so keep an eye on this innovation, see how that works out. That's really exciting. Keith, tell us about what's happening in the city of Miami.
Well, it's partnership and collaboration, because as I mentioned that we're on the cusp of this transformation of our local economy, but the city of Miami is one municipality, largest municipality that comprises Miami-Dade County, and we can't do it alone. And so one of our partners is Miami-Dade College. Antonio Delgado represents the college as an advisor to Venture Miami. Maryam, we negotiated a $2 million ARPA grant for workforce, for training for City of Miami residents. And as a Miami resident, I don't know too many people that haven't at least taken a class at Miami-Dade College or attended Miami-Dade College, right, or have some kind of affiliation with the college.
It's not 6 degrees of separation
right,
here.
No.
It's 1 or 2.
Right, and I believe it's the largest community college in the nation,
yes,
as well. And so it does great work. And also, when you think about our population here, we have a large immigrant population. And the folks that come here from the Caribbean and from different parts of the world have a real strong work ethic. And so that's one of the things that make Miami unique. When we looked at census information, I think over 70% of the households speak a language other than English at home. And so this college is really an opportunity for people, when we talk about seizing the American dream and becoming a melting pot, this is really where the rubber meets the road. And so they're wonderful partners, and we really can't do it without them. So 2 years ago, I get called to a meeting with Mayor Suarez and met some folks from Supernal. Never heard of Supernal. Turns out that they're a division of Honda Corporation, and we were doing an MOU, and we were talking about flying cars. Now, my generation, grew up with the Jetsons.
That's it, yes.
I'm like,
it's actually happening.
Right, I'm like, is this real, And so as an economic development professional, when you take a look at AAM, and you take a look at this emerging technology, sometimes we get caught up in the technology and, you know, what's going to happen. Do we have, you know, we talk about the batteries. Batteries are a very important issue, you know, a challenge that will get resolved because I believe in the human ingenuity. I also believe with generative AI and quantum computing, we're going to solve a lot of things that we thought were unimaginable within the next 3 to 5 years. And so that's my little, you know, soliloquy on that. But when I look at this emerging technology, I think about jobs because you're going to need pilots, even though some models will be autonomous. You're going to need air traffic controllers. You're going to need an infrastructure that's sufficient in order to not only support vertiports and vertistops, what are those, you know, but also just EVs in general. And so it creates a tremendous opportunity for folks that don't need a college education, but can earn a very good living. And there is a shortage. There's a shortage of HVAC technicians. There's a shortage of crane operators. There's a shortage of elevator repair operators, you know. And so these are jobs where people can earn a good living, can afford to live here in South Florida, and really just do well by them and their family and for generations to come. Mm-hmm. And so for us, when we talk about AAM in particular, right? So this is our general framework. We're on September 24th, we will be doing a summit or a gathering around jobs for AAM at the Frost Museum. Okay. Of course, I'm going to be reaching out to you, Antonio.
Stay tuned for the memo.
But also, we have partnerships with FIU, with University of Miami, and with Florida Memorial University, which is the HBCU here in South Florida. And they are our partners in something called a Venture Miami Scholarship Fund. So any City of Miami resident that is Pell Grant eligible, that attends one of the 4 college or universities that I mentioned, and there's a gap in their tuition costs, we match that gap. And as we talk about building out our local economy, as we talk about embracing emerging technologies like AAM, you know, we're very cognizant that it just can't benefit people that are just new to Miami. You know, we have to be very intentional and focused on the people that actually live here and create those opportunities for people to avail themselves of these wonderful opportunities that are emerging. So one of our first steps in this is that we'll focus on workforce. And also what is very important to note that the federal government, we've had an opportunity to speak before their interagency working group. They're going to come out with their guidance in August, if some of you are aware of that, to Congress. And it's going to be a framework for AAM operations and engagement. They're going to come out with the guidance in February of next year. But around that time, and we've been talking with FPNL, and Crystal Stiles has just been very wonderful. But we're going to start focusing on infrastructure. What can we do to enhance the infrastructure? Because there's a challenge with that, but also it's a wonderful opportunity to create jobs.
So you're looking ahead of what's coming, which is AAM, and kind of building your timeline backward and making sure that you're ready for the challenge in terms of workforce, infrastructure, and supporting that new emerging technology.
We call it like almost a no-lose possibility, you know, a proposition, because if you prepare the workforce with being able to handle high voltage wiring, if you prepare the workforce with being able to, be pilots in the cockpit, if you prepare the workforce for just being air traffic controllers, if AAM or if eVTOL operations get extended a year or two further than what was anticipated, you're still coming out ahead because there's a need for those jobs right now. So you're preparing the workforce for what you anticipate, but then also you're providing and filling a need that's current. And so that's one of the things that we do. So once we get beyond the workforce and partnering and hopefully identifying resources to supplement that, we address the infrastructure. Then we're going to do vertiport design challenge, because by then we'll have some guidance. Because right now, what the FDOT is telling us is that they don't know how the vehicle is going to fly. Right. because none have been certified at this point. And so when we were like eager and we wanted to do the vertiport design challenge first, and we reached out to our federal partners and they say, well, okay, that sounds wonderful, but we don't even know how these things are going to fly. So it's hard to design something for when you don't know how it's going to fly. So that kind of pushed us back a little bit in terms of our timeline. But we're going to do the vertiport design challenge. We've been in conversation with the University of Miami. And the idea is to gather students to be part of that whole discussion and that challenge, because you'll be surprised in working with industry, our industry partners. So that does two things, right? Beyond the technical aspect of it all, community acceptance is going to be very important with this, because right now, when you talk about vertiports, vertistops, when you talk about eVTOLs, the average person don't know what you're talking about. And even when you go to a local municipality or government, because our current structure is that, of course, the FAA approves the airspace, but local government, as it stands now, cite the vertiports and vertistops. And we believe that it's a really a regional play, because it's not something that I think would just be done where people will just all, they're going to go from port to port, Miami International Airport, Port of Miami, and maybe sports stadiums. But eventually, we're going to look at something kind of regional network, and so that would be the third leg.
Yeah.
And then we are going to we will wind up with an airspace integration challenge for regional. And the idea is that if we have an idea of what the potential routes are that the FAA will approve, then we can look at some of the infrastructure needs within those particular corridors agnostically.
Yeah.
Meaning that we're not going to do anything for a particular vertiport developer, but certainly we know that the infrastructure is not sufficient in general. And if we think that a vertistop will go within a particular location, there are federal funding out there that can help mitigate the cost, because without that, they're going to pass that on to the consumer. And then there's another conversation about equity and having this mobility, not just for the affluent and the rich, but we want this to supplement our transportation mobility just in general. And so that's going to be part of our discussion too, as we cite vertiports.
Well, it sounds like it's a perfect segue to our next speaker, Maryam, talking about workforce, which I know is, as you had talked about in your introduction, very important to the college. Tell us about what you guys see and what are the challenges and how you're answering these.
Yeah, thanks for that. And so I did, it is Fleet Week, and the port has some beautiful Navy vessels. I got to go on the USS Baton that's at the NCL terminal. So if you're in town, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the sailors and the men of the Marines around. You should definitely go check them out. But that's a wonderful thing that the port was able to bring to Miami. So congratulations with that. In terms of workforce, I think we really have to think for the future. So we're talking about the Jetsons, we're talking about linemen, we're talking about data systems that can support the future of AI. And for us, this is something that touches every program, every department, every discipline we have at the college. So I think about teaching our future pilots and our future folks that want to be in aviation. I remember a couple months ago, someone came to ask us, how are we training students to fly like the Jetsons? And that's a very interesting conversation, right? What does that mean? What are the skills needed? And it's a very uncharted territory. I think that we talk about industry and kind of what the workforce needs are. I don't know if we're going to be the Jetsons in 3 years. I don't know if we're going to be there 5 years, but how do we make big bets that in, let's say, 10 years, when the workforce is needed to be able to kind of meet this new emerging automotive vehicle driving, like how do we meet those needs? So currently we have a partnership with Tesla, and it's one of its kind out in the West Campus, where our students get to learn how to be mechanics on Tesla cars on site at Miami-Dade College. And it's a program we started 5 or 6 years ago, before everyone had a Tesla, before Tesla was kind of leading in the world, before we knew about Tesla batteries and the implications. So we took a big bet, and we could say that our workforce and our community is better for the program. And since then, we've been able to work with Bean Automotive, and we have a similar partnership with them around electronic vehicles. So those are bets that we've made in the past that I think have paid off today. So now we're thinking about what are the big bets for the future. So we talk about semiconductor and clean tech and linemen, and what does that look like for for the future, as we're talking about new toll roads, or choice roads, as you said. I do think that we have to be really thoughtful about what the future infrastructure needs are of the country and how our students are prepared to meet those demands. And that's really working really closely with industry and not leaving anyone behind, which is kind of something that Keith talked about. Through partnerships with the City of Miami and Miami-Dade County, we can proudly say that anyone in Miami-Dade County that graduates from high school and that wants to come to Miami-Dade College, they can come for free. And it doesn't matter, because we believe that everyone should be able to have an equal playing field to be able to meet the job needs of the future. So with collaboration with the city and the county, I think we're very unique in that sense to be able to have our city and our county government say that we are going to match dollar for dollar scholarship money for your students in tech and emerging technology and emerging industries. So 2 years ago, Keith and I worked on Miami Tech Works, Venture Miami collaboration. I don't know what we're calling it now, but it was something very innovative that we did through the leadership of Francis Torres and our college president, Madam Borrego. And last year, the county came to us and said, we want to do more. So we launched with the county mayor, the Future Ready Scholarship that lets anyone come to Miami-Dade College. And we're really focusing on the middle income. So as we talk about affordability and as we're talking about the cost of living skyrocketing, we also know that middle kind of income family sometimes doesn't have the resources to come to Miami-Dade College. So through the leadership of Mayor Living Cava, we've been able to launch Future Ready, which will allow any student that graduates from Miami-Dade County public schools to come to Miami-Dade College and really invest in their future. The other piece that we can talk about automotive, we can talk about the future of tech, but we also have to think about how our students are being educated today in the classroom. So we are really focused on teacher education programs, teacher pipeline programs, and ensuring that we have the right educators in front of the classroom so that we can talk about developing the workforce. So that's been another initiative that we've spent some time thinking about. And then the third I would share is we also believe in future entrepreneurs. So how are we going to have our students, our community, become business people and come up with solutions for many of these issues? So through our Idea Center here at Miami-Dade College, where we work with community leaders, we work with our students to really help them grow their ideas, develop their ideas, put together business plans, and be able to pitch to new industries, to new investors in our community, because we also believe that our community should be at the forefront of having big tech, having venture capital invest in Miami businesses. So that's another thing we've been focusing on.
So Maryam, I do live here in Miami-Dade County. I do see all the great work the college is doing. If there's a company out there who wants to collaborate with the college, how do they go about doing that? What are some of the things that you're looking to attract, again, to help fill that need?
Yeah, so we have Miami Tech Coalition that's led by our Vice President for Tech Innovation, Antonio Delgado, and it's a really unique program funded by the federal government, a large investment here at Miami-Dade College that brings together the private sector with the public sector to understand what skills and tools are needed. And the big component of that are internship programs and matching students to jobs. I think that for us is really important because we can train our students, we can provide them the right tools, but if they're not getting that opportunity for a paid internship, that we fall short. So right now, we are thinking beyond workforce training. We're thinking beyond students getting certificates and associate's degrees and bachelor degrees. We're really thinking about we're at our best when we're able to provide a student a paid internship that then leads to a full-time job. And that's really something that we're really laser focused on. Time and time again, our students go out to industry, they're rock stars, they love our students. They many times get a paid internship, but then they don't get the job. So for us, we're really working with industry to really understand why not. What would it take for you to hire our students? And that's something that we're really bullish on right now and really transparent, that we believe that we do have talented students. We have some of the best students in the country that are gritty, that are first generation in their family, and that deserve the opportunities. They do great when they have their internships. Some of the internship programs we actually pay for the students to go to companies, and then we hope that if we make a small investment in the student, then they'll in turn get hired, and it's not happening at large numbers. So that is really kind of our focus, is to ensure that students are having that opportunity for a job.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so let's on the state level, what are the things happening and what are the challenges and how are you solving them?
Well, it's interesting listening to the panelists here and how the role of a state DOT, fits into that. for students to get jobs, for people to be able to have the ability to get around. We play, as a state DOT, such a critical role in that. Give you a little perspective from Tennessee. We are one of 5 pay-as-you-go states left. We pay for everything that we deliver. We own every section of highway. We own all our bridges. When it comes to, and Chris and I were talking about this earlier, the rate that Tennessee is growing, we are outpacing the ability to provide the infrastructure from people to get to place. So last year, the Transportation Modernization Act gave the state the ability to enter into public-private partnerships to build facilities for choice lanes. Well, the reason that's important for us is, I don't know, people may not be familiar with Nashville, but if you think about the hub of a wheel, one of those spokes is the I-24 corridor, which links Nashville to Murfreesboro. It's about 30 miles. Murfreesboro is one of the fastest growing cities in the southeast. It's also home to the largest public university in Tennessee, in Middle Tennessee State University. The ADT on that facility is about 180,000 cars per day. And that 30-mile stretch can take as much as an hour and a half commute. So to be able to, so give you an idea, our yearly heavy construction budget is somewhere around 1.2, 1.3 billion. To improve that corridor in a conventional way is upwards of $3 to $4 billion. So we had to come up with a solution that would bring the private sector to the table to be able to invest in a facility that will allow us to move people, along that corridor, because we couldn't spend our entire state's budget on one corridor. So that opportunity for us to be able to do that is really a needle mover. But what's more interesting about it, back to the hub of the wheel where Nashville is, the I-24 corridor, if you look at what the city of Nashville is doing with they have a new plan that they've just rolled out. It's called Choose How You Move. It includes over 80 miles of walking and bike trails proposed. It includes several different transit option development strategies in it. It also includes expanded bus service. It is right where I-24 dumps into downtown Nashville. That's where their mobility hub is going to be. So for a typical southern city where transit is always a challenge, one of the policy decisions we've made at the state is transit will be able to use these choice lanes for free. So how do we get transit from the choice lanes to the mobility hub in downtown Nashville to be able to solve that last mile and give folks options to be able to move around in that urban core? And historically, at least in Tennessee, that partnership hasn't always been there. In fact, if you look at Metro Nashville and the state, for the most part, those two entities could not be more different politically. But what our governor, my boss, and the new mayor of Nashville share is the idea that transportation is one of the most critical things in being able to get young people to jobs and opportunity and all the things that have been talked about today. And we agree on that. And we both see that as an opportunity for us to be able to really move the needle with regard to mobility in what is becoming a very large southern city that's spread out, that the development patterns don't necessarily make all conventional transit solutions very practical, but we at the state are taking a much more active role in being part of that solution and collaborating with Metro Nashville to make sure that from a state perspective, we are solutions oriented for them rather than just going and building more highways. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm a highway engineer. I love big, nasty road and bridge projects. That's what I do. That's what I love.
Don't be confused.
But I mean, when you talk about innovation from our standpoint at Tennessee DOT, it's really about changing the way people think and our role and how we work with those other stakeholders, whether it's a public-private partnership or a public-private partnership, because without that, I don't believe we will be able to keep up with the pace that Tennessee is growing. And when you don't do that, the companies don't want to move there. The private sector doesn't want to invest.
It's all connected.
We have to be able to keep pace with that to make sure that we get where we want to go as a state.
Yeah, and I think that's a theme that we've heard throughout yesterday, and a lot of the conversations were, let's come to the table, let's find ways to make partnerships, let's get creative, innovative, and figure out ways to work together. And so this has been super enlightening to hear all the different types of projects and challenges we're working on. I love the connection of workforce looking forward. The innovation happens at lightning speed, and I'm a former government employee. I've been in and around government and technology for many years, and it's great to see the investment of folks coming to conferences like these. It's great to see these conversations happening, the partnerships that are being announced, and it's really inspiring to be part of this type of environment where things are happening and they're happening quickly. And so I appreciate everyone's opportunity to come up here and share your challenges. I want to see if amongst yourselves, if you all have any questions or collaborations that you want to talk about of what you've heard here today, ideas that maybe you want to steal from one another or share, anything insightful about what we've heard here today that you want to talk about?
Well, I would just say the overall takeaway for some and over the last 2 days is really about partnership and collaboration, because we can't go it alone. We're not the experts in education, for example, at the City of Miami, but we see the need to partner with folks like Miami-Dade College, because that's their lane and that's their expertise, and they're at the table. And also with the private industry, because there are a couple of folks that, they're coming to us with wanting to site vertiports in different cities, and we're having honest, and just because we may disagree on maybe the timeline and maybe even the approach, but know that we are here to work in partnership with you, because you're not always going to agree, but just because you may disagree or have disagreements, but as long as you have an honest dialogue and open conversation and discussion, because if there's a question or a concern, you can pick up a phone and you can give me a call, and we can talk about it. But again, one takeaway is that no one, no organization, no institution, no individual can kind of go it alone in this endeavor. And I think to be successful. And so these are just wonderful partners that we've had, and new partners, and so that's my
Yeah, I think one of the things that folks may not realize are these innovation challenges, these types of partnerships that that counties and cities are putting up, because innovation is where things need to happen. And so I love to hear that these organizations within government are happening. So how do you suggest private industry, or maybe some cities or organizations, counties that don't have that, how do they get that started? I mean, Keith and Maryam, you can talk about, how you stand up and get involved in something like that.
Yeah, I would think that these partnerships don't happen overnight. I think we build trust little by little. So I do think that sometimes with partnerships, when we're working on interesting deals, sometimes we don't know if the deal's going to work. But I do think that you get everyone in the room, and you're just really persistent. You ask every question. You kind of figure out find every reason why the deal should work and why the collaboration should work, and who benefits from it. And I think that that's kind of the place to start, right? We always start from the place of, yes, we can do it. So we would say that when we have conversations with our public partners and our private partners, we're like, of course we can do it. Just come, let's have a meeting, and then we'll figure out the details, right? And sometimes the details are big, and sometimes they'll take a little bit more time, but it's all about being really persistent and thinking about the long game. I think our collaboration probably took a year to get to the finish line, right? We said we're gonna do it. We might have even announced it, but we were still trying to figure out the details. And our team here is laughing because they know our philosophy is yes, we can do it. Yes, it'll benefit our students. Yes, it'll benefit our community, and we'll figure it out along the way. And I don't think we have it all figured out. I think that every day we have projects, we have initiatives that behind the scenes we're trying to make sure that we don't mess up, and we're good to our partners, and we do right by our students. So I do think it's just a long road, and I just think that it's really important to be persistent. Don't have too many lawyers in the room. I would
no
say
offense
that.
to the lawyers in the room.
But I think that you have to have a really clear vision of what you're looking to do, and then not let anyone get in the way around policy or practice or legacies, or this is how we've done it before. I think we've been able to do a lot in the last 3 years at the college because of that. You see this beautiful AI center. This was an old advising room from like the 70s.
Yeah.
18 months ago. And our president and our team, we had a bold vision that we were going to work with our Downtown Development Authority and our tech partners, and we were going to create a space that everyone would be proud of, that we can convene around, and our students, our high school students, our elementary school students could come and see the future in this room around AI, cloud computing, and everything that we do. So you have to be really tenacious and just really just persevere and be really persistent when you're trying to do public-private partnerships.
I would also add, find the champions within your organization, within whatever, however large, small, private, public. Find those champions that are willing to be persistent, that are willing to push the boundaries a little bit and support them, coach them, encourage them. You know, it's interesting, at a DOT, I heard you say, we do that way because we've always done it. You know, most folks that know me at TDOT know that is the last thing you tell me if you come to my office. I'm a little bit different. I started out in the private sector and came to the public domain, which most people go the other way. But one of the reasons I did that was the administration at the time was looking at bringing some private sector flavor and to the DOT. But one of the best things you can do, I believe, is coach up the people that want to make a difference and move the needle. I know that sounds cliche, but it is so true from a leadership standpoint. Those are the folks that are going to really impact change.
I love it. So inspiring.
And then also what's important is not be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that when we, you know, like I mentioned earlier, we wanted to do the Vertiport Design Challenge. We wanted to do it in September. We announced it, you know, and then reality hit, you know, and we had to pivot,
Right.
you know, and that is what's happening, and I think that that's what needs to happen when you're trying something. You can't be afraid to screw up or fail. You know, we try to make sure we dot all our I's and cross all our T's, but then have that supportive environment that when you get a little bit over your skis, you know, it's not something that's going to be held around your neck like an albatross, you know. And also, the funny part, you had me laughing about the why, right? When people say, we've always done it, and then you go, why? Well, we always done it. Yeah. Well, why?
That's not good enough.
Right.
For the Generation Xers in the room, that's do loop. I know the folks that don't know that type of programming, or I actually took Fortran. Sorry, I'm not really.
And Cobalt, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
So anyway,
what's that?
You
right?
lost the room.
Yeah, I know.
What is that?
You're stuck in a do loop there. Why you do it that way? Because we've always done it. And you ask the same question, just like you said, Keith, and they say the same thing.
And I would just piggyback off of what Keith said. I mean, in my work in innovation and what I've seen throughout my career, and I know we've all seen, is sometimes you do take risks in innovation, and those are necessary risks. I think you're afraid to fail, and if it doesn't work, you know, some organizations, some leaders could say, hey, that's a failure. We're never doing that again. We're never making a strategic investment. We're never taking a bet on this kind of thing again. Well, no, that was a learning, right? If you look at it as a learning, an opportunity to understand whatever area you're working in innovation in particular, and take those learnings and continue to push, that only makes the final project, I think, stronger. So that's something I've seen and learned through my work as well.
Yeah, and the last thing I would kind of add, so the mayor announced the Miami Innovation Authority, I don't know, over 18 months ago, and I will tell you that we had no idea what it was going to look like, what it was going to mean, if it was going to work, who could apply, how much money. We had a lot of questions about it. So I will say, you sitting here today and be able to articulate what that means for cargo carriers, what that means for the port, and how it's actually going to be realized, I will say that's amazing. It's not something that I think when it was announced, we really understood what it was going to look like. And then you guys lived through it. You figured out how it was going to be organized, how you were going to do it, what companies you were going to bring together. I will say it's really wonderful to be able to hear kind of really concrete ways that the authority is moving forward, because a lot of times you hear big announcements and then you're like, well, how is that going to work? Or that's not going to work. Oh, we brought that idea from somewhere else. It's not going to work here in this community. But I will say that's a really wonderful thing to be able to share about the Miami Innovation Authority.
Yeah, and I think what Keith was talking about, the way we've always done it, the big brother to that one is, you know, that's not going to work, right? And it's been great to see. So just real quick, our Parks Department has done another challenge through the Innovation Authority to basically repurpose seaweed to productive uses. So we've had companies... Sargassum. But nobody knows what sargassum is, so... Right, exactly. So to repurpose it, and some of these startups have come in and said, hey, can we turn this into energy? Can we turn this into fertilizer, right? And the airport is, the second challenge is with the airport to improve the customer experience at the airport. And they're a little bit of our rivals, so they need to work on that. But nah.
It's all about moving people.
but I think, and for people, because we talked about it, I don't think we gave any real detail to it. I think it was funded $9 million, I believe, was the number.
I'm not
Which-
positive.
The Innovation Authority.
Yeah, the Innovation Authority used public dollars and some private investment as well.
I think Citadel was
Yep.
3, Miami-Dade College was 3, and
County.
County, and the Knight Foundation.
Knight Foundation.
And so Leanne Buchanan is the person that runs that. And what they're and the idea comes from I think when they went on the trip to Israel, it models it there. And so that's a public-private partnership collaborative that takes on community challenges and problems, and they try to solve it through technology. So the first one was seaweed, but it was sargassum, the sargassum challenge, and everyone's like, what's sargassum?
Yeah.
Seaweed, right? And so what to do, we had a 5-mile plume headed our way. And so, and what to do with that. And so that's a wonderful, innovative idea, merging technology and innovation, but for a public benefit and a public good. And so it's a great program, great initiative.
So we've just got a couple minutes. Again, thank you everyone for coming this morning. Are there any questions, comments? Go ahead.
I was working with the Midwest Hydrogen Group, and I know there's $7 billion in the Jobs Act for that. So this is probably for Chris and also for Will regarding Tennessee Valley Authority. I've been out there into Oak Ridge National Labs. You guys can make hydrogen, and Chris, there's most of the hydrogen infrastructure money's going into the ports. Do you have any involvement with that at this point and working it into your areas?
Yeah, so you're talking about for equipment for energy to use, as an alternative to electric. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a big debate going on, I think, about what's going to happen with that. What I do think is clear to us is the amount of investment that's going into electric and the infrastructure that's being put in. I mean, long term, I'm just curious to see if there is a big shift to another energy source.
Hydrogen is electric.
Hydrogen electric.
Yes.
Right.
Like the forklifts used in the ports.
Yeah, no, we haven't looked at that. Our cargo terminals haven't looked at that yet. I'm not sure if it uses the same infrastructure, if it's different source. I'm not really sure on that point. But what I do know is electric is really our focus now, because that's where the money's going, that's where the investment is, the infrastructure. And hey, that comes with a whole other set of problems, right? Because you got to generate that electricity somewhere. So those are all things that we're thinking about, absolutely.
I would say the same. That's the challenge for us, is how do we help manage getting the infrastructure in place to support the EV market. One other thing I'll mention is, Tennessee has become a major player in the EV market. We have Nissan North America. We also have Volkswagen, and was just recently Ford is building their Blue Oval City in West Tennessee, which will include a battery factory, and also they will produce the Lightning vehicle there. So $6 billion investment in the state of Tennessee to make EVs. So it's right there in front of us. How are we going to put in the infrastructure to be able to manage that?
There is $8 billion to give to you to take that. In the Jobs Act. So that money's allocated for people to create these infrastructures using federal funding in 7 different hydrogen hubs in the U.S.
And we just got our plan approved by the feds for how we're gonna manage that.
Cool. Any other
Thank you.
questions? Yes, sir. Just a second.
Hi guys, Sam here from Elixir. Question for you guys regarding the port here in Miami. Speaking of partnerships, how much have you guys done around local waterborne transport and how it relates to the hub? Specifically in terms of the port being a charging station for smaller transport, as well as bringing people to and from the port, whether it's employees or cruise goers or other.
Yeah, honestly, the port hasn't been too involved in waterborne transportation at the kind of smaller local level, right? The county did work with a private ferry operator. I don't think it's still.
So I'm a board member of the Downtown Development Authority, so we've had lots of talks. I think this is one of the issues that I think public-private, I don't think that there's agreement on how ferries should be operating, who owns the docks. So like, for example, there's some cities that even if they own their docks, they don't want the ferries to bring people from other parts of, let's say, the county to their community. So I think some of it's kind of right now in that political world of who owns docks, who's allowed to use their waterway, do they want to bring residents to, let's say, Miami Beach from Miami. I do think that if you look at Fort Lauderdale, that's a wonderful model. I do think that that is something that we hopefully aspire to, and there's been some gains around ferry transportation, but I do think that there is an agreement on how we do it, who pays for it, who builds the docks. It's one of those challenging issues that we're seeing.
And I would add, Will talked earlier about changing behavior, and that's one of the hardest things, right? I mean, people are used to getting in their car and their AC. And so transit, if you look at a ferry as another form of transit, I think those are some of the challenges that we've faced in getting people to mode shift, you know?
We've got time for one more question, I think, up front here.
So I have a question for Will. With Tennessee, usually public-private partnerships have a reputation, especially with the members of the general public. How did Tennessee achieve getting this new legislation passed, and how do you see it being perceived by the public?
So that's a great question. I'll take the first part as far as getting it passed. I mean, we made it very clear. I mean, I said choice lanes, and we're very serious about that. We see it as our governor believes very strongly, as many of us do, that it should be a choice whether or not you pay for the ability to use that lane. So we in marketing it as a choice, we really we created a lot of momentum there. The other thing is, anytime someone sits in traffic for a really long time, it's not hard to convince them that you can come up with a better solution. The harder thing is how do you pay for it, and what's the impact to my community? So that's where we spent a lot of time explaining that conventional highway solutions, you go out there, you add additional lanes, you take additional right-of-way, you do this. It just wasn't practical for a lot of different reasons. But we made the point that you don't have to use the choice lane to improve congestion. Because let's just say if you were sitting in traffic on some congested freeway somewhere, and I told you that for $3, you could improve your commute by 30 minutes. Or if you're sitting over there in traffic in the general purpose lanes, the person that's willing to pay $3 and get in the managed lane, they just improved your traffic as well. Because they just took 25%. If you're sitting in congestion, I told you, 20% I could take 20% of the cars out of the general purpose lane right now and put them in a managed lane. Would that make you happy? I would think so. So there's a benefit to the folks that are using the choice lanes. Well, and that's another strategy is
I-95.
improved incident management. Okay, that's one of the things we put a big emphasis on in Tennessee is you can't build your way out of congestion, whether it's the strategy of managed lanes or incident management. The quicker we can clear that incident, the more impact we can have on traffic congestion.
But it seemed like one of the challenges is a political environment also, because in order to really have the resources, you can't use that dirty word and say tax, or you can't raise fees. You have to be elegant and nuanced, I guess, to get the resources in order to make the investments.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And for us, one of the ways we were able to sell the TMA and managed lanes was because we weren't raising taxes. Mm-hmm. We were leveraging the private sector to come in. But it's also, I was having this conversation with somebody else this weekend, it's a way to offset the cost, but it's not a true revenue stream. We cannot get away from the fact that we have to find a different way to fund transportation in this country. That is at the forefront of everything we are going to have to deal with. Our generation is changing that mindset of how we're going to do it. So that still has to be forefront in our mind. But using these other strategies, coupled with the conventional ways that we manage getting people from place to place, I think is the open-mindedness and the innovation we have to have in our industry to be able to move the needle.
Well, that's a great way to finish. I want to thank you all of our panelists for sharing that information. We hope that the audience found some value in this conversation this morning. I do want to again thank you for coming out. We do have a very exciting day ahead of us. We do invite you to grab some coffee at Danish and head to the main leadership stage. HNTB has an amazing keynote, and we encourage you all to join us. And once again, to our panelists and audience, thank you.